everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Cavanaugh's Corner. Today on the show, I'm very excited to bring you a movie that I've been a fan of for many, many years. It's actually one of my favorite films ever, maybe. I remember seeing it when I was a kid and being wowed by it. And now that this thing, has come so far, I mean, it's 40 years since this movie came out, and I absolutely love this film, and I'm glad it finally got a release in 4K, and that is the original Superman, starring Christopher Reeve, Gene Hackman, Margot Kidder, just a whole cast of great actors, directed by the amazing Richard Donner, and just an unforgettable score by John Williams. This is not just one of my favorite superhero movies, but this is one of my favorite movies ever. I love this movie. Every time I watch it, there are certain moments that give me chills. And seeing this in 4K now is really just, it's a marvel to see this movie in this new format. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Now, I'm not going to be reviewing the movie per se, but I do love this movie. And even though it has its flaws and everything, I still absolutely just adore this film in more ways than one. But this new 4K transfer is what I'm really here to talk to you about. And I've got to say that Warner Brothers yet again knocked it out of the park with this. I mean, this is a great transfer of this film. 4K, I was kind of worried that the 4K with the HDR and everything was going to bring out a lot of the flaws in the film. And, certain things that I'll get into later don't look so great as they used to. Certain special effects in this movie, even though the special effects in this are outstanding for their time, some of them just haven't aged well, but some of them have aged like fine wine. So it really is a mixed bag, but I still love the movie for what it is, and Christopher Reeve's performance, in my opinion, I just don't know if we're ever going to get anything better. I'm just being honest. I think whenever I think of Superman, I think of Christopher Reeve, and, even though Henry Cavill has done a wonderful job as Superman as of recently, still when I imagine Superman in my head, I think of this guy right here. And it's sad we lost Margot Kidder recently, and Christopher Reeve's terrible accident and his passing years ago. But man, I still love this film, and I'm seeing it now in this 4K. It really is mind-blowing. First thing I'm going to talk about with this is obviously the picture quality. And the picture quality in this it's amazing. It really is amazing. The transfer now has been cleaned up, and it looks almost as if certain parts of the movie are like butter. They look beautiful. They are crystal clear in certain points. Again, I'm going to get into some of the other things that are not so crystal clear in a second. But most of the scenes in the film look absolutely beautiful. The clarity you get with this 4K transfer is really nothing I've seen before with any of the Superman films. And I've seen basically all the Superman films, starting off on VHS, moving to DVD, going to Blu-ray. I've had all of the Superman movies on basically every format. And seeing it now, seeing this wonderful movie now in 4K is really something else. One of the other reviews I did recently was the 2001: A Space Odyssey review. Yet again, another marvelous transfer by Warner Brothers. But this one here is really something. And the thing I like about it is that they got it to the point where it almost looks like you're watching something that's happening right in front of you. Some points have some heavy grain, and those points are mostly the composite shots that were done. When there's any kind of optical shots that are happening, you can really tell. Some of the shots at the beginning of the film of Krypton, they are just packed with heavy grain. And sadly, there's not much you can do about that. That's, the way the effects were done back in the day. You get the grain from the processing of the film. And I'm glad Warner Brothers did not DNR those scenes to the point where it looked, like Play-Doh or something. I'm glad they didn't do that. But the grain going from, the optical shots to just the normal, in studio or in camera shots, where actors are obviously not around any kind of special effects, those shots are crystal clear, and the grain is fine, but it's barely noticeable. And I really like that, although, like I mentioned before, those optical shots, there are certain shots of Superman flying and stuff that do look, ironically, more grainy now than they did before, but that's because of the 4K format and the fact that you're getting a picture quality now that is just so much clearer than what you got before. You're going to notice it more. But all that put aside, the picture quality on this is outstanding. I mean, it is really something to look at. I almost, crap my pants with the opening of it. Just the title sequence, those blue titles flying at the camera. That part alone was one of those things where I was like, wow, like that's beautiful. And it's still, 40 years later, looks gorgeous. Certain shots with Christopher Reeve flying through the air, the shots that are done without the compositing where he's, his likeness is put in front of a background. Those shots, again, some of those shots have not aged well, but most of the in-camera shots of him flying, especially the scene where he's flying with Lois Lane, those scenes look magnificent. And the next thing I'm going to get into is the HDR on this. And the one thing I'm really, really glad to announce is that this has Dolby Vision on the disc. And the Dolby Vision on this really brings out the bright colors that are basically throughout the film. The brights of the lights of the city are just outstanding. That some of them are subdued, because you can tell when they kind of switch back and forth between sets and actual on-location shooting. But as I mentioned earlier, that title sequence looks absolutely incredible with the HDR. Superman's suit itself really jumps out with that new color palette. There's so many things. There are explosions that happen that look beautiful. One thing I've never noticed, and again, it's something new with this new transfer that I've never noticed before, is when Krypton explodes at the beginning of the film, it has like a whitish, greenish, reddish color now, and the red sun of Krypton, sorry, I pronounced it like Marlon Brando does at the beginning of the film, Krypton. I guess they didn't have a take two for that one, but Krypton's sun now is really beautiful looking. It's this darkish, orangey red color, and it really jumps out at you, whereas before it just kind of looked like a dark yellow. You really get a beautiful, beautiful color palette with this disc, and I was very impressed by it all throughout the film. I mean, black levels are very good in this. I dare even say, outstanding at times. The shots, again, of Superman flying at night look beautiful. You don't get a lot of crush in this. There is one part where there's a burglar climbing up a building and Superman's standing on there looking down at him. And that part there, it's a dark kind of scene because he's climbing in the dark, but the burglar is wearing all black, as a burglar would in this situation. I don't know why I'd attempt to do a Spider-Man up a building, but all that put aside, he kind of blends in with the darkness, and I'd say that's one of the only times in the film where the black levels are not really on point. But other than that, I mean, there's some beautiful shots in this. The shot of Clark walking out of the farm in the sunrise when the crystal is calling to him. The greens of that crystal as well are beautiful in this. There's that light shining onto Clark's face. It is really gorgeous. It's a gorgeous looking film, and it looks even better with this Dolby Vision HDR on here. It is really something to behold. And Jeffrey Unsworth, another gentleman that passed away actually shortly after the filming of the movie was complete. He really captured some beautiful stuff in this film, and it's only right that the movie is dedicated to him. Other than that, I'd say the next big thing I want to talk about is the sound on this. And this is where I start to get into some funny territory, because it's not the sound mix that I'm upset about, but it's the fact that for some reason, I don't know why, some godforsaken reason, Warner Brothers does not put Dolby Atmos as the main track when you put the disc in. They did this with basically, I think, all of the Matrix movies. And I don't know why they continue to do this, but when you put the disc in originally, the movie starts with a 5.1 track, Dolby Digital 5.1 track. And you have to go and pick Dolby Atmos for it to play that track. Why? Like, why, Warner Brothers? If you're watching this, which I doubt you are, but stop it. Like, just make the Dolby Atmos the main track. Every other company in the world is making Dolby Atmos or DTS:X the main track on a 4K disc. Do it. Like, don't make me go through a menu to hit it to change it to that. I don't want to do that. Just make it the standard number one track on the disc. Like, make it the main one, so I don't have to do that. Now, all my bitching and moaning put aside, the new Atmos track is fantastic. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. They really did a great job of making it very, very, very direct. And that's what I liked about this track, is that the surrounds are used perfectly. The overheads, when Superman or something is flying overhead, you really get that sense that it's going over the room. You get that whoosh, that signature Superman whoosh overhead. It's really great, and they did a wonderful job. They didn't overdo it. They didn't overblow the sound mix. It sounds very much like the remixed version that when they first came out with the 5.1 mix years ago. But it's like that on steroids. That's the only thing I'd say about it. The mix, I loved it. It's a great mix. Everything is crystal clear. And like I said, it is the perfect immersive audio mix to me for this film. I wouldn't want it any other way. The only thing I'd have to say about it that was kind of a little lacking was the bass in it was not extremely low. It was kind of a medium bass, but again, for what you got, it's outstanding, and it's hands down my favorite audio mix for this film. I mean, the fact that they were able to do this with a 40-year-old film, I absolutely loved it. Other than that, I mean, the other thing I have to mention is that the movie is the theatrical cut. It's not the extended cut, which is too bad. I actually enjoy the extended cut of the film, even though it pushes the movie to, a little over, I think like a little over 2.5 hours. I still really enjoy the extended cut. I have not seen the TV version, which is, I think, just about 3 hours long. I have not seen that. I want to get that. I'm definitely going to be buying that soon. But having this version on 4K, the original theatrical cut, is still fantastic. And it's also the original theatrical cut on the Blu-ray as well. Now, other than that, I mean, I really don't have much more to say. It is just a fantastic film made even better by this new format. Again, it's awesome. I highly recommend you go out and get Superman on 4K. It's a classic. It's immortal at this point. And, I just... the only thing I want to end with is that I just wish that, Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder were here to see this version, because I think they'd be blown away by it. I gotta admit, I got a little emotional watching this film. I hadn't watched this in quite a while, and seeing Christopher Reeve fly and Margot Kidder and their chemistry in this is just outstanding. It was a phenomenal watch, and I can definitely say that someday I hope to show this movie to my kids and say, you know, I bet $10 by the end of this you'll believe a man can fly. And I gotta tell you, that tagline holds true even 40 years later. Thank you again for coming to Cavanaugh's Corner. Again, if you like this video, please hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. It really helps us grow, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.